I have noticed so many relationships of folks that have come out to play, got to know each other, off doing a few things as maybe companions or whatever, and I'm like going, that was a good sign. We've had a lot of things happen. There's people who've come out, looked like they shouldn't be out on a court at all, and after a few times being out, and the further they were out, the more agile they were, the better they played, and it makes me feel good because I realized, hey, it's exercise. Just recently I had a lady, Betty, husband John, I get an email saying, we're interested in pickleball, but we're 69 and 72. Is that too old? And my email back to her was, if I can play at 82, you can play at 72. So, and they joined, and they are playing. So, anyway, thank you for allowing us to come in and present again. I'm going to read what I had put out on an email, kind of what the meeting was about, what we would like to do tonight. The city's been putting a court in for us, and now we have formed. You have a suggestion last year we needed a club. I wasn't interested in a club, but thank you. We have formed a club. We're not fully organized yet because we're in that process. We're trying to get all this tied together, but we are in a club situation. So, the main idea is to show the Recreation Committee our progress in organizing and working with the city to have a plan that would help manage the new public pickleball park. Our goal is to manage the scheduling of play on the courts in return for the city to help us with the dues collected from citizens who wish to become members of PPC. And we have given ourselves an official name, Perrysburg Pickleball Club. I say that because Sylvania Pickleball Club, Holland Sylvania Pickleball Club, Toledo Pickleball Club seems to be the format, and so for that purpose we have changed a little bit, and so we are officially Perrysburg Pickleball Club. The object, and when I refer to the money there, the one thing that if we would ask the city to do, we don't want you to really mess around with all the dimes and the quarters and things that go on. However, when it comes to becoming a member of the Perrysburg Pickleball Club, and the reason for doing that is, of course, everybody's always calling, well, is anybody going to be out tonight, or who's going to do what? So by forming a club, as was suggested, we are better able to set up a schedule saying these are play days that we have, and so you're, as a club member, you know when you go, more than likely there's going to be folks there to play that night. So our schedule is on, we have a web page, we have a young fellow doing a web page for us, and it is called what? What's our
It's on Facebook, and it's the Perrysburg Pickleball Club.
It's on Facebook, it's the Perrysburg Pickleball Club, so they can pick up our schedule on that. So we're already started off on that manner. The idea was hopefully that we could get somehow tied into the city website, even if it's a feed or the feed goes to our website. That would at least give people, anybody coming to town looking to play, and that would facilitate that. But that's all we would ask the city to do for us. Now, I wonder if they would just collect that $20, we would have checks made out payable to the city of Perrysburg, member of the Perrysburg Pickleball Club. We would use them funds then if in fact the tournament, we have tournament play, which is quite big with pickleball. We could use funds for that, or if it's not used by the end of the year, we would hold a social event for the members and use them funds up. That way we're not, no question about who's handling the money or who's doing what. So and if we could have that, that would be fine. The city would collect a fee of $20 annually to hold for any miscellaneous expense not covered by city responsibility, with any unused funds to be spent on a summer and or winter social event for the members. And we're still working with John Eckel. There are a few things on the court that hasn't finished yet. The fencing is not up. There is a little bit of signage that we're looking to get done. And from what I understand, by the way, it came in well under budget, so that was good. So thank you again for the generous contribution. So that's basically what we've done. We are forming the club. So tonight there are two ladies here. They are called ambassadors, and it's a title that they've been given because they are knowledgeable of what's going on in inter-clubs. So they've been helping set up clubs. They're the ones with the more experience, and if you have a question for them, those are the ones you want to ask the questions of. So So of the two, I'm going to bring up Betsy Keniston. Betsy is going to give you some details, and then if there's any questions you have, you're probably more than welcome to ask her, or we'll answer as best we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, Betsy.
Hi,
Can you state your name and your address?
Betsy Keniston. I live at 5958 Settlers Ridge Circle in Sylvania. And I'm a USAPA ambassador, the United States of America Pickleball Association. It's a national organization. There are several thousand ambassadors throughout the country, and we are tasked with promoting pickleball. I cover this regional area here of Northwest Ohio. Kristen Villaflor, third one in, is also a USAPA ambassador. She's newly appointed ambassador, so I've been an ambassador for 3 years now. So I am a member of all the different pickleball clubs in the area, Toledo, Holland, and I spearheaded and worked with the committee to start the Sylvania Pickleball Club, which is a little bit different. You folks are very unique in that you have your courts before you have your club. We had our club, and then we had to work with council and our SAGR board to get our courts built. So what I would ask that would be, obviously the property itself is city-owned property, yet your club is kind of it'll go along, but it is very important that they both work together, and whatever the club does has the blessing of the city. So the first thing that I would suggest that is addressed, whether it's in this meeting or outside, is the point person of who is the person that Paul or whoever is part of the club would come to speak to say, hey, we'd like to do this. We'd like to have the blessing of the council or the city or whoever that particular person is. Regarding what Paul was talking about as far as the money goes, I'll share just my experience with the Sylvania Pickleball Club. We started from scratch. Mike McMahon is the rec director up that, and Rob Mahan, McMahon and Mann he is the one that is the liaison with the pickleball club. So they meet, they have a steering committee. They decided they didn't want a president and so forth, but they have a steering committee that organizes the club activities. And when they need something, they call Rob and say, we need to have more balls. And the Sylvania Rec Department has a portal that we actually go online. If you're a member, you log in and you register as a member each year, and you renew and you pay through that portal. They also manage, they don't manage, but they support a website they have a big rec department website, playsylvania.com anyway, and pickleball is part of that. So that goes along with their email address to contact somebody through the pickleball club. So there's a real joint connection between the club and the city and the SAGR Sylvania Area Joint Rec, because we have the township and the city that's all part of that. So it's real important that the club has the blessing and has a connection with the city to know that what they're doing you support, and that if there's something that you'd like to see, that you have a contact person within the club, the organization itself. As I said, the example, we have permanent courts out there. We have a $20 a year membership fee. Our balls come out of that. If we have a tournament, which we have one coming up in September, it's a members-only tournament. They will go to Rob and say, hey, Rob, we'd like to have X amount of dollars from our fund to pay for our food. Some people will make things too, but maybe they'll buy water and that Gatorade and that type of thing. And then they have social events from time to time. I will tell you that these courts, you'll find, will probably be one of the most active adult-oriented activity that you will have. Physical, unless you have, I don't know whether you have soccer programs for adults or anything like that, but you'll find that it'll be extremely busy. You will have a lot of very happy people out there, but you're also going to find that there's going to be a lot of youth starting to play. I was out there a couple weeks ago and I saw that there were several younger players, teenagers, that were playing out there. So it's not just for those of us that are retired and can play all day. So, but as being a city property, it is really important that the club knows and that the city knows what the club's doing and the club knows what the city would expect from them. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have that I can answer based on my experience.
How long have you had your club, your Sylvania Club?
Sylvania Club came on in, I made my presentation to the Sage Yard Board in 2015. And we started the club itself at that time. It was a group of people, we got a group of people together and said, okay, what do we need to do? So as soon as we made that presentation, Mike McMahon said, I met with him a month after, I made the presentation in January of 2015. I met with him in March just as a follow-up. And at that time, then we got a group of people together and said, okay, we have a promise from Mike. It's going to take us some time to get permanent courts, and it took us 2 years. He was right on schedule with his promise. But he did promise us that within 3 months, by June, we would have what we considered our temporary courts. It was 3 courts on a piece of asphalt that had been lined several years before, but had lots of cracks and grass growing through, so nobody ever used it. They resurfaced it, painted it, put the grit in the paint. They did everything they needed to do to give us at least 3 courts to play on until the new ones came. So at that time, that summer is when we started building our club. And we have, gosh, last I heard was a little over 200 members. And some of them they're not all Sylvania, but if we had to say how many of those were actually Sylvania people, I'm going to say there's at least 125. But again, that's members of the club. You can go other times and find that there's other people playing there that don't belong to the club. But the club will have specific times that they have open play that we ask that you be a club member, or you can come for free for 3 times, and by then people are hooked and they join anyway. So if they want to come and play with the club.
Right.
So.
I'm glad it's going well. And how many would you say are in Holland? And you mentioned Toledo.
You know what? I don't know the individual numbers of each club, but I would say to you, just based on the last time I talked about numbers with them, we have well over 500 unique players.
Wow.
Unique players, in other words, I belong to all of them. Only count me once. I mean, one unique number. So over 500. And I'm not sure yet because he hasn't emailed me back, but I may be going to Swanton's council meeting tomorrow night. They have had a club in Swanton for at least 2 years that I know of, and they play on a tennis court that's got the lines painted on them. And they want to make a presentation to their city council to at least take one of those courts and make some permanent pickleball courts out of it. So I'm not even counting those players. They're out of our count. Well, you're out of let's say the Tri-County area, but it's, you've got a lot of YMCA's and all kinds of places that people are playing. We even count Bedford in our demographic because they're right off the border of Michigan. We have right now, which we've just invited the Perrysburg folks to join us. We have an we call it an interclub mixer, and right now it's been 4 clubs: Bedford, Holland, Sylvania, and Toledo Club, which is in Rossford. Those courts are in Rossford, and once a month now we'll be adding one more, Perrysburg, maybe not this year but next year. We're invited to those clubs, and everybody gets together, and we'll do a round robin for the evening, and the club will provide snacks or water or something but people that might not play at Toledo ever or wherever, we go to the different clubs, and it's just it's just kind of the start. At some point we'll probably do an interclub tournament where you might put together 12 people from one club maybe, and then we'll all get together and have a tournament that will compete the different clubs against each other. But there's the possibilities are endless for that kind of activity.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Good thoughts, Jim?
Do I have thoughts?
Well, we know you have thoughts, but I mean, do you have thoughts about pickleball?
Yeah, I do. I think it's great what you're doing to stay active. You use it or you lose it.
Yep. Amen.
Goes for a lot of things. generally not a proponent of growing government necessarily.
Okay?
So what's the reason of having the city collect the fees? I do work with other clubs in town, soccer clubs, baseball clubs, stuff like that. And the city doesn't get involved in their finances
Okay.
directly. What would be the reason for having the city manage that function?
Well, I think it's to make sure that the money is secure, because you've got people that are gonna, they'll probably elect officers, they'll have a treasurer. Holland manages their own money. Sylvania chooses to, they funnel all the money in and they hold it. It's the club's money, but they find that it's easier. They do it with all of their clubs.
So you think your money is safer if you give it to the government?
Well, perhaps. Perhaps, it's just something that's thrown out there. If we don't even know, as we brought that to your attention, if it was even something that's possible. If you don't already have the infrastructure set up to do that, or then it might not even be possible. And if that's the case, then that's probably not something that's gonna.
I personally would like to see the club take ownership in that function themselves.
Okay.
That's just my opinion on that. You had mentioned the club would manage the court times.
Yes.
Somewhere along that lines, I have another question. Does the city of Sylvania have a written agreement with the Sylvania Pickle Club as to what the city's responsibilities are and what the club's responsibilities are with respect to court maintenance, court scheduling, things like that? Is there anything like that that Sylvania has, or that Bedford or Holland or Toledo have?
Toledo is a little bit of a different animal, because Toledo, we have, I guess, what you'd call a free lease from the Rossford school system. The courts that we are on for the Toledo Pickleball Club are the old Rossford tennis courts, and they built a new complex. 7 years ago, and when I first started playing pickleball, I was approached by a group. We have a girl that's lived her whole life in Rossford, and she has a very good relationship with the school board. And she went to them and said, we will maintain, we will pay for the renovations, we will pay for everything if we can get this agreement. So we go on 5-year agreements. We're in our second 5-year agreement. I think we have 3 more years on that. And it's been all paid for through either private people paying for example, I'm a charter member. I put out a check when there's 35 of us that paid to have those courts renovated when they were first renovated. Since then, we collect dues from our members, more than just the $20, because we have to pay for everything that's not city paid for. Plus, we have a big tournament every year that we bring. There's over 200 people come in from several different states. We have people, several of my friends from England come over and play in it, a tournament, and that's our major fundraiser of the year. So that's a different animal than all the rest of them that are city run.
That was Rossford?
That's the Rossford. It's Toledo Pickleball Club, and our courts are in Rossford. And that was the first one, and I don't think anybody foresee that it was going to be this as big as it got. So that's why it's Toledo Pickleball Club, but it is in Rossford. So that one's a little bit different. As far as whether it's in writing, Sylvania they run everything through their website. So when Rob and the club meet and talk about what times they have blessed for the club to have as their club time, it all goes on their website. So in that case, yes, that is in writing. The club does not pay for any maintenance. I believe their money did pay for the lock box that we keep our balls in, that is chained right up to the fence, that type of thing. The city the Sage Yard just put in benches in between the fences. Our courts are stacked different. They're not just one big pad with 6 courts on it. We have 4 courts on an aisleway, and then 2 more. So in those aisleways, and we have benches they've just put in for us. But that was all done with taxpayer money. We don't pay for anything. Only thing we do is we bring in our blowers, because we decided not to take a couple of trees out. And we bring in our own blowers and blow the courts off with the leaves, and there's some with berries, that type of thing. Bedford, I can't speak to Bedford as far as the way they run theirs. I do know the Village of Holland takes care of all of their maintenance. They lock their courts at night, they have lights. The police officers lock the courts at 10 o'clock at night, and then they open them back up in the morning. And I don't know if you're familiar with Mike Junker, who was the mayor at Holland for years, but he's huge. He's moved to Key West now, but he's a huge pickleball player. He's the one that brought it there. His son's on the maintenance crew, and they take care of those courts and make sure they're blown off and do all that. But the club itself takes care of all of their needs from a supply standpoint, or any type of social event or tournament that they want to run. That all comes out of their club dues.
Betsy?
Yes.
Would you indicate, Rossford, the Toledo Pickleball Club is closed? It's not open to the public, am I correct?
That is correct. Toledo Pickleball Club is not open to the public because we maintain that. We welcome anybody to come, but when we don't have our own club times, the courts are locked, and the only ones that can get into those courts are the charter members. So I can invite you to come, I can open up the gates and we can all go in and play. Or there's a higher level of membership. I don't know how much it is, but it's a higher level than, I think the regular membership is $40, and it seems to me their higher level is $75. And with that, you get the combination to the lock, and you can open up the gates and go in and play. But as general public, we do keep those locked because we don't want kids skateboarding on them and doing other things. We don't really mind if other people play on them. We just don't want them to get damaged, since we have to pay for them.
Makes sense.
We don't want any of them to get damaged.
Jonathan, you look like you had some ideas on
I do. Jim, do you have any further things to add before I?
No, this time.
Okay. I actually would like to echo some of Mr. Matuzik's statements. I know that with the PAVSC and all the other clubs within town, they do collect their own dues.
Okay.
It's not something I believe the city is equipped for right now. I was on here looking at the Play Sylvania site, and they have a lot more amenities with the Tam
Okay.
Shanter and
Sure.
other things that they've already had those capabilities set up for. But I know you mentioned having a go-to person on how to proceed, and my recommendation is to reach out to the administration, whether it be Bridget Cabot or John Eckel, to work on some sort of contract or agreement to come into play.
Okay.
I know that the city has some agreements with some of the clubs to run some of those
Sure.
facilities, and that might be a step to do that.
Okay. Yep, and that's something that Paul will do. Yep.
And the only other question I have, I think you answered it. I was just asking if any of the municipalities collected dues, but I think you mentioned that Sylvania does, Holland doesn't, and Rockford is.
Sylvania's the only one that I know of that the town, that the actual organization, the city, the SAGR collects the dues. And it works pretty seamless. Again, that they have the means to be able to do that. It's already set up. So,
that. Do you have any other thoughts?
That's it right now.
Thank you. Any additional?
No, I just think if you're going to meet with the administration to discuss putting together some type of a formal agreement, which protects you as well as
Mhm.
the city. So you'll get your court time. And, once you guys come up with a draft agreement, if you choose to do that, then it would be run past the rec committee.
Okay.
Just for us to take a look at it.
sure. Good. I have one question.
Yes.
When can we get the three of you out there to play with us?
Well, I would like to come out within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So Paul knows that I'm going to be
Great.
doing that. So
Great.
I'm excited about it. I played once a long time ago.
Okay,
I'm excited about coming out. I'm
Good.
very excited for all of you.
good.
Monday 6 to 7 is the beginner's time.
Yes, that is right, correct? Okay.
On the
Yep.
Facebook page too here.
Yes,
So
yep.
I know my cousin
Yeah.
has done pickleball for years. He teaches, or not my cousin, sorry, my wife's cousin. And
Yep.
when you're married, everyone's cousins
Yeah,
anymore.
sure.
But he's teaches tennis at several clubs around town. I know
Mhm.
he's been that's how I first heard about pickleball
Yep.
several years ago from him. But it would be fun to do. I just hopefully I
Yeah.
can find time with 3 kids.
Yeah, we'll bring them out. Are they young?
Yeah, 3 months.
Oh, yeah, okay.
3
They're
years
little.
and 5 years.
I do have a paddle about this big. It's a little small for my
Yeah,
little
if my
4-year-old niece has one. She plays with a wiffle golf ball.
Oh, if my 3-year-old got a hold of that, he'd be hitting everyone with it. So that's.
Just to club provide equipment for people that want to come out? and
I'm gonna
play?
let Paul answer those for you. Thank you for your time. I can answer anything else you have.
Just a point, my email list already is at 125. So that's, and we're just starting. So it's obvious to me that we're getting 5, 6 a week. I keep getting these phone calls or emails saying, would you add these onto the list? And so, yes, the interest is growing. And again, my original thought on the city sharing on some of the duties would be, it is public. And so we're willing to do all the work so that you don't have to do anything if you would just take that collection, and that way nobody's responsible on our end of saying, who took care of that $2,000 or $3,000 of money, and say, obviously liability. So that was the thought of possibly the city being doing that, because they would have the expertise and they would also have the management of it.
Well, it's a thought. When I had met with you earlier, about a week or so ago, you had mentioned all these things to me. So I had mentioned to John Eckel that he may want to meet with you, and he said he planned to do so. And possibly he might have some ideas about how to go forward with that.
Okay.
I see your point. I also see Jim's point and Jonathan's point as well.
And again, our thinking on that was not asking you, like I said, somebody needs money for pickleballs or paddles.
Sure.
Every day coming in for a check for something. It'd just be, gee, we're having a tournament coming up. We need some funds for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know where it's going. Again, this is your public courts, and so we figured you have your skin in the game on that. And so that was my only reason that
Sure.
hopefully you would do that.
Sure.
I had asked a question whether or not the club provides any of the gear or the equipment. I didn't hear.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, that would depend on the club.
Yeah.
So Paul can
Yeah.
tell you that.
You
Once-
invited us out to play, but I'd show up.
I have plenty of
without
equipment.
Yeah.
I have all kinds of equipment that you can use.
Jim, I can answer that question. Way Public Library has pickleball equipment that you can check out
Yeah.
Oh.
during the summer rec program. The summer rec, during their hours of 8 to 3, they have equipment that can be checked out.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Do you check it out like, well, can you keep it for a couple of days or
I-
you have to bring it back?
Don't know, I think it's a week, but I can't say for
Okay,
sure.
not have it
Public
back.
The
library.
way, the way library.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
and
it's
I've
only
seen
one
people on the
extra.
court with them, and they say, oh yeah, we just got them from the public library, and I said, great. So, but there are all kinds of places to pick up paddles and balls, so yes, it's not a major equipment problem, so they don't need shirts, although we had one of our members actually screen printed the shirts, and so we purchased those and sold them to the club members, so we did that on our own, we didn't ask anybody to help with that, so. Questions?
I guess I have a question. When you said you were going to have something available for maybe the three of us. When would that be? Anytime we would just call you, or how would you do that?
Yes. Rephrase that question for me again.
You had mentioned earlier, one of the three of us going to come out and play pickleball.
Oh.
When would you have something available, or who would we contact about
As of right now, if you look on the website, Monday nights from 6 to 7 is beginners.
Okay.
What we do is we have people, anybody who wants to come out, we will instruct them on the basics of the game. If in fact they enjoy that, and quite frankly, if you've played a game or two, you're pretty good at it. I mean, you understand what's going on.
Mhm.
There are many people who like to take lessons. The YMCA is always providing lessons. Also, we provide lessons through the Toledo Pickleball Club at Rossford. And the session, what do they run, Betsy?
Just $5.
$5, I think it is a session for, so there are, and those are where somebody trained will run you through. How many sessions would that be?
They can go for, it's $5 every time they come, and they usually go 3 times. I've actually been the teacher for the last 2 weeks, so, and we've had, I'm gonna say 6 or 7 people that have come over because of your notice on your Facebook page, or from talking to people at the courts that have come over that are from Perrysburg. And 4 of them came the second week as well. They came back again. 3 times, and most people get it by then.
You're almost a professional 3 times. The interesting, if you get through a full game, the only thing you're gonna have a problem with is probably remember how to do the scoring. And everything is online, so obviously anybody going on their phone and just say, how do I play pickleball, or anything, just pickleball, and everything you need to know is there. And by the way, thank you for the signs that are on the fence explaining the rules of pickleball. That's nice, just one on either side. I will be getting with John Eckel though, because again, we've got a few things we need to finish up. The court play is really kind of erratic because the balls are sliding all across each other's court. And John has got fencing to put up with, and I know it's set up, ready to go. I think it's the same group that did the this resurfacing, refinishing. So as soon as we get that done, y'all come out and play.
Yeah, I think it was Court Smith that we had voted on for that.
And-
Court Smiths are the ones who.
Yes, Court Smith, correct.
Did that, yeah.
And again, the schedule's on our website. So if there's ever any question, and we will always expand that. If in fact we need more time for new people coming in, it's not a problem. As soon as we hear anything, we change our schedule and then we post it. So somebody going online knows when we play as a group, when there is going to be instruction time and what have you. And as we go on, we might, who knows how we might set up a night for whatever, women's play, men's play. There will be all kinds of interesting things as we go. So it's going to be fun.
I think it's great, and I love, as I said before, I love the enthusiasm. I like the inclusiveness of all ages. I think it's great, and I'm very happy it's going well.
And if you were there and listened to the older people talking, it would be like, oh my goodness, these people really like this. So it's good. Thank you again to the city for what you've done.
Thank you very much. Okay. On up to old business, location of the splash pad water line. Ms. Cabot is not here, so I guess we will have to find out that answer. Hopefully maybe by the next council meeting or next rec meeting. Riverside Park cannon stand. Does anybody have anything on that? Okay. Does anybody have anything more on the inclusive playground? Okay. And we're at D. We are on the codification of responsibilities for the Recreation Committee. And I've written up a short draft right now. And this is what, the following is a second draft, proposed addition to the rules of council concerning the delineation of responsibilities for the Recreation Committee. It resolves the concerns which the law director expressed about the first draft. Proposed addition to the rules of council 220.05, Rule 5A5. The Recreation Committee shall review all legislation or any proposed administrative action costing more than $25,000 involving city parks and or recreation programs, which will take place in them, and make a recommendation to the full council before either are presented to the full council. B is shall review all suggestions by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee which would involve legislation or which would cost more than $25,000 before such recommendations are presented to the full council. C is shall interview in conjunction with the Appointment Review Committee any candidates proposed by the mayor for the appointment to PRAC and make a recommendation as to their qualifications before their appointment is considered by the full council. And that's the draft I have proposed tonight, and what I would like to do is have us put this in motion and send this to council.
Is that Michelle passed?
I did send it to the law director. She does have it.
Did she get back to you on it?
She's not gotten back to me because I believe she was on vacation.
Okay.
But I do know she has it. I sent her the weekend.
Okay.
Absolutely. Sure.
A couple things I read it earlier today. I just wanted to have it in front of me. I noticed you put the $25,000 limit in there.
Yes.
How did you come up with that number?
Because anything that we had discussed before, as I recall, this is before I was on council, I think I might have been at that council meeting, it was discussed that anything beyond 25,000, or I think anything under 25,000 didn't need to come to city council.
Correct.
So that's where I got that.
That's their interpretation of that. Oh,
That's what I remembered.
yeah.
So that's where it came up.
Okay. I think the other thing in here that stood out to me it's in all three of them, actually. Jonathan, I think this was your concern, saying that we had to have a recommendation come from the committee before it goes to the full city council. And that was kind of the sticking point, I think, the last.
Could you speak up, please?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know if anybody out there has got this, but there's 3 different paragraphs that she has proposed, and each one says at the end of each paragraph that the committee shall make a recommendation, or there shall not be, let me just read it, shall review all legislation or any proposed administration action costing more than $25,000 involving city parks and/or the recreation programs which take place in them, and make a recommendation to the full council before either are presented to the full council, meaning it has to go through the rec committee, and the rec committee has to make a recommendation before council considers it. And each one of these say that. But I think when we discussed this at the last committee meeting, and I think Ms. Moore, you even read us the language that says
The form
the
complaint.
council can actually bring anything they want to themselves. Even if the recreation committee or any other committee doesn't make a recommendation or bring it forward, because there's 4 people on council that are not on the committee, they can do that. And so I think the discussion was, since that is in fact the case, if you agree that that's the case, that language in here wouldn't be necessary, because it doesn't, I understand we want it to come to the committee, but I don't think the committee necessarily needs to make a recommendation before council can consider it. And I think the concern was that we put that in there, then we're, saying that something get stuck in committee and not go to council when it really can't.
I don't think it will get stuck in
But
committee.
you agree that it can't get stuck in committee?
I would stick it in committee.
I'm not saying that you would do that, but just in general, legislation can't get stuck in committee because a non-committee member can make a motion to vote on it or discuss it at a council meeting, whether it came out of committee or not. So that being the case, I think the concerns with this language here that says.
I guess I was trying to be a little more specific, because the last time, I think it needed to be a little bit more clarified. So that's what I was trying to do based on what the
Just the
law
work rules in
said.
general.
Pardon me?
The responsibilities in general need to be clarified, or that particular point?
Just in general, that's what I was.
Oh, no, I
trying to
agree
do.
with you. These responsibilities, I think, is not a bad idea.
Yeah. Because we don't have anything right now.
No, I agree. I just think it's this last part that says there needs to be a recommendation before it goes to council. There doesn't need to be a recommendation. I don't know that there's ever been anything since I've been on council that got stuck in a committee for lack of a recommendation. I've been on committees where we chose not to make a recommendation, but then it would go to council with no recommendation made by the committee. But aside from that, I don't necessarily have a problem with anything else in here, personally. I figured the $25,000 came from that other rule. So what we would need to do if we ever had an instance where we thought somebody was abusing that $25,000 limit, not necessarily by way of the recreation committee, and we were to try to change that $25,000 limit, which has been discussed in the past, then we'd have to note to make sure it changes too, so that this doesn't have a different limit than what that has. And maybe in order to avoid that, we could just reference that other code section, the limitation set forth in section whatever it is, shall apply here as well or something like that. So if that gets changed, this gets changed. I don't know if anyone said anything.
So you're looking at pretty much this one right here.
Yeah,
the top
I
one.
don't have, all 3 of them, I don't have a problem with the amount that you use, but I would rather than state the specific dollar amount, I would just make reference to the section in our code that sets that $25,000 limit on contracts entered into by the administration, and just reference that, so that if that should change, this automatically changes. That's what I would do.
You read my mind on that one, Jim, because it's the same exact thought I had. Is I don't have any issues with it, with that amount, but I believe that it should be referenced to the code, just in case there's, what happens if city council decides to change it to 10,000 and rec has it at 25,000, then it can go directly to council without going to rec. And I also agree about the recommendation comment as well. I think it's a
So
circular
I think we
recommendation.
can make those changes, we got yourself some new rules.
Okay, so so I'm on the right, so we're all on the same page here. Shall review at all legislation for any proposed administrative action costing more than $25,000. So how do we want to word for this again?
Just requesting more than the amount set forth in code section, whatever it is.
Okay, amount.
I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay, got it.
I can give you an internal revenue code section, that would.
That would be a problem. Okay, so the amount set forth, and what else were we specifically?
Just
Specifically
not
saying?
requiring a recommendation of the council, of the committee before it goes to council.
Ms. Ward, could you speak up, please?
Yes, they were saying that they didn't want to have to make a recommendation to the full council before either presented to full council.
And we know it's normal. Of course, we do that, but requiring us to do that, I think, sends a message that we want to be able to hold something up and not send it to.
I don't think that's.
Well, as Mr.
that's
Matusak
not my
said,
thought.
no recommendation is a recommendation.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we had something specific written down.
Or if you just put in that it needs to be reviewed by the recreation committee before it goes to the full council. Just take the recommendation out of there.
Okay,
Why not?
reviewed.
Why not?
Say that again, Jim? So it needs to be
Look, it's
reviewed.
already in there, beginning
Like
says
what
shall
I said?
review.
As I have, as I
Yeah,
have.
it's already,
Where I have that.
Ms. Warner already has it in there.
Yeah. It's
Um,
not true.
Yeah, I think that the recommendation just creates a circular argument. And I'm not saying that this current committee would do anything to hold anything up, but who knows what the future could lie.
There have been moments where I would hold some things up if I could have.
All right, any other thoughts?
Yeah, and if we- I would say if you could make those changes and run past our law director, make sure she's
Okay, so.
approves the word.
Okay, send to law director. Okay. I will
I
send.
guess if you could do that, she gets back to you before our next committee meeting, you could
Sure.
just email us the information.
Sure,
We can't really discuss it, outside of a committee meeting, but at least we'd have the language.
absolutely.
And we could each individually get back to the law director, I think we wanted to, let her know what we think.
Or we could do the bring it up to council with no
Yeah, yeah.
recommendation and just knowing that as long as she gets reviewed for the next meeting.
Yeah. So I don't
Would you
think
prefer waiting till the next rec meeting or bringing it up to, we don't really have anything specific yet from the law director. So I can send her
What's
the
our
change of
next-
the
our next
wording.
council meeting is when?
August
Next-
20th,
next
next
week.
week, yeah.
If you can get it done, we can do it like Jonathan said at the next committee meeting, or at the next council meeting. Doesn't have to go-
If she
It doesn't have to go
reviews
through the committee because we know we're already agreed to it if she does make those changes. So then we can, state our case at that time.
So you would rather, you sure you don't want to send it back to recreation before we send it to council? Then we have a specific, all our specifics.
Well, I wouldn't bring it up if council, if I wasn't happy with it, and if you weren't happy with it, so.
What if I bring it back to recreation?
That's what you want to do.
Then we have it all.
That's your committee, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring it back to recreation and then to the
Okay.
next council, if we can get to the council meeting. I think that would be good. Okay, and then a new business application for grant from
Ms.
Wood
Ward,
County.
can I make one comment?
Oh, sorry, yes.
John Orser, 125 East Front Street. I'd like to congratulate you all on resolving this in such a comfortable fashion. But I'd also just make the comment that now there are 3 committees which have guidelines instead of 2 as before. And this might be an incentive for the other 4 committee chairmen to create similar guidelines for their committees, which makes it easier for citizens and for the administration to interact. There's nothing that says they have to, but my personal feeling is it would be desirable.
Yeah, I was trying to do this to get the ball rolling, so the other committees could have recommendations as well.
Now, I'm saying they could write their own guidelines for themselves, just as you have done.
Thank you very much. Okay. And I believe we have Judy Hagan here from application for grant for Wood County Park District Grant
Yeah,
Program.
Judy
Thank you.
Hagan, Program Coordinator, Office of Litter Prevention and Recycling. I have a deadline of August 30th at 4:30 to present this application. I've given you the actual application if you want to go through it. The 6 portable canoe and kayak storage racks for Orleans Park, 11,527. These would be, as you can see from the illustration, freestanding. These would be, as you can see from the illustration, freestanding. storage racks, we had a problem this year with the ice. It took out 3 of the racks. So these racks would be movable, they're not permanent in the ground, so we would move them up and out of the ice, and that would resolve the situation of having to replace or rebuild storage racks. So that would be one. We can do 3 applications. The second one would be the purchase of trash cans for Rotary Park, the kind that are currently in Municipal Park and Rivercrest Park. Those are the old concrete trash cans that were originally bought in 1985 for the downtown. They don't blow away, they don't roll over. They're cleaned by power washing. We put the city seal on them. People seem to like them. It gives a clean look. We're looking at putting them in Rotary Park because Rotary's going to be doing the shelter house. There's going to be more things happening in Rotary Park, so that needs to be added to. Currently now we have like toters, which don't have a very, polished look. So that would be a second one. The third one would be, as the picture shows, 3-seat bleachers. It's a request by the pickleball group. So when they do their tournaments, there is a viewing area. It would be on the pickleball courts that are in Municipal Park, mounted on a concrete pad. So there's not an issue with grass mowing underneath them. Our staff would assemble the bleachers, but the contract work would be for the concrete. So these give you a variety of things. It is up to Wood County Parks. We have been very successful in getting these park grants. Previously, we have gotten the sunshades at the pool twice. We've got the sunshades at the tennis court. We have gotten safety surfaces for all the playgrounds. So we've got all our ducks in a row that way. We're hoping that they'll look at pickleball courts as an all-inclusive sport kind of thing. The trash cans, litter prevention aspect, and the canoe kayak racks as another inclusive kind of sport activity. Do you have any questions about anything?
Actually, I do have just one question. I know
Sure.
For the trash cans, putting the city logo on there, I think it's a great idea. And I was curious, since it's Rotary Park, about possibly talk with Rotary Club about see if they'd be interested in putting their logo on that as well.
We've tried to be consistent with the trash cans, that it is City of Perrysburg, okay?
I just figured if being Rotary Park having that logo on there would seem to be a unique feature for that park, being that's named after Rotary. Just on maybe on the other side or something, also having the City of Perrysburg seal, but just a thought or suggestion.
You've got room for one seal, and the thought was to keep them consistent throughout all the parks.
Okay.
So if I have to move one to another park, it still has the, city seal. So I need a resolution to apply. Laura has come up with a resolution that both covers applying for it, and if we do receive it, accepting the funds. These are reimbursement funds, so we spend the money first, then after I do the final report that everything is done, then we get the check for whatever amount. Usually you get one of them. You try to do a wide variety. Depends on what that group is looking to do. They have 5 recreation people outside of the Wood County Park District looking at these. So it's not the Park District that is making the decision totally.
How much is the grant that you're hoping?
There are 3 different levels, and you can apply 3 times. One is under 1,000, one is 1,000 to 5,000, the other, or no, 5,000 to 10,000, and the other one is 10,000 above. You can apply one in each of the 3 areas, or 3 in one area. It doesn't matter. There's no more stipulation. It used to be 1 out of each of the 3 categories, but they took away that stipulation. So
Which ones are you applying for?
all 3 of them.
All 3 of those levels?
All
I see
3.
the projects, but you're applying for the 3 of them.
Yeah.
Some grants.
So one obviously is over 10,000, one is under 10,000, another one is in under 10,000.
So you're gonna apply for the one over 10,000.
We're applying for all 3 of them,
Okay.
3 applications. 2 of them in the
Which
up to
just
10,000.
coincidentally, you got 3 projects that has nothing to do with the projects. There's 3 different grants you're applying for based on the
You
level
can
of-
apply 3 projects. And those are our 3 projects we're applying for.
So one of the grants you're applying for is under $1,000.
No, these are the 3 projects. You don't have to apply in the 3 categories.
Oh,
You can have all
times.
3 in one
Gotcha.
category or 2 in
Okay.
one.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Okay.
It doesn't matter anymore. It used to be that way, but it doesn't matter that more,
So it's a
that way.
resolution? cover
A
all 3
resolution
applications?
to apply for these 3 grants, Wood County Park grants, 3 projects. And if we get them, to accept them and do those projects. We could get 1, we could get 2, we could get 3, depending on who else is applying, what they're asking for, in terms of how much they're asking for, what funds they have available, if we meet what they're looking for as their focus that year. Okay, 1 year it was the safety surfacing, that was their focus. Another year it was sunshade kinds of things. Another year was having safe playgrounds. Last year we got the replacement playground at 3 Meadows. So we'll be asking for all 3 of these. We could get 1, 2, 3, or none. We've only had 1 year that we didn't get.
Have you seen the resolution yet?
I wrote the resolution for Laura. She should have given you a copy of it.
I don't believe, I don't have a copy of it.
You said you need to do this by August 30th?
Yep, so you need to pass a resolution at next council meeting.
Yeah, normally she has a draft of that ready for us at the committee meeting, immediately preceding the council meeting. There's not gonna be another one for the council meeting, so we'll have to figure out a way to get that from her.
Absolutely.
I can send you a copy of it. I have
I'm
a
for it, so.
copy
just
of
seeing
it.
Oh, I'm for it as well. I agree with Jim. I'd like to see it, but I'm definitely for it.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, and basically the resolution just says we have permission to apply, and if we get it, to accept. It's the same resolution that we do every year. And it has to be with the application. If we miss the deadline of 30th at 4:30, there's no recourse. So we have to do the resolution on the 20th.
So that would be, what, an emergency? That would-
Yes, she will put it as an emergency measure.
Yeah. Do you know when you'll find out if you get it or not?
You put this in, it could be October, it could be November, whenever they basically have time to get around to do it.
Yeah.
There is no deadline as to when they have to let us know.
You said we do this every year?
We do it every year.
Any reason we can't or get these things rolling a little sooner, earlier in the year, rather than pushing up against the deadline? Next year? Next year, not now, or next year?
Because I don't get the information until end of April, May, and it takes a while to do all the research, discuss what we want, get, all the ducks in a row of finding the places, getting the quotes.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I appreciate you bringing
Okay.
it forward to us, and please let us know how it's going. Thanks. And I have a quick report on the PrAC. Attended the last PrAC meeting. It was the first Monday of the month. I believe that was August 5th. The PrAC members worked on their bylaws. It appears, from my standpoint, from watching at the meeting, that they didn't understand as to how the PrAC could deliver its recommendations to the Recreation Committee Council. So I thought of something that would be helpful. The best way that they could do this would be to make and second and pass a recommendation by the full committee, which would then be sent to council, the Recreation Committee for review. If the if the recommendation does not involve council action, it can go directly to the mayor's office. And then the third point I have is, at the meeting, a member of the PrAC meeting addressed a concern that not enough of the parks were in the new part of town. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, actually, of the 2 current city parks, 3 are in the historic district, Orleans Hood and Riverside. Another municipal park is originally in the original mile, which is in the historic district in Carter. And the other 8 parks are in the other parts of town. So those would be my thoughts on the PrAC meeting, so. that's-
You had mentioned in there,
Yeah.
if I heard you right, I remember right,
Mhm.
you had suggested that the committee make a vote, make a recommendation
Correct,
to the committee.
correct.
But if it doesn't need to go to council, then it can go straight to the mayor. Is that conflict in any way with one of the rules that you just wanted to?
Not
establish?
not necessarily, but I mean, I thought of that if possible, if that doesn't, what I said is if the recommendation does not involve council action, then it can go directly to the mayor's office, is what I was saying. If it's not council
Didn't
action.
one of your rules say that anything that the PrAC does has to go before the committee?
I did mention that.
It requires legislative action.
Only
Legislative.
if it requires legislative action?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or if it costs $25,000.
Okay, gotcha, okay. So
That's-
then it doesn't conflict with that, okay.
Yeah, I just was getting that out there because if they want to bring something forward to us, it seemed like there was confusion from my observation of the meeting.
Mr. Matuzak, back in the day, there were issues sort of the other direction where many people were coming to the Recreation Committee because they thought they had to. And it was just something like getting a permit to use a tennis court or something like that. And we're trying to streamline this for the convenience of the citizens.
So the question I would have on the recommendation suggestion is if they have a suggestion or an idea or want council to have a conversation, where would that go at that point? If it's not legislative or
They should probably come to the rec committee.
they should come, or
They could bring it to us.
so if they make the suggestion in the PrAC meeting, would that, if they make the suggestion of I'm trying to think about if they make a suggestion for an idea or a suggestion on something, would that not come from there,
Could
or
you
is that
speak
something
into
that
the
they're
mic,
going
please?
to?
Okay, well, I'm the liaison, you mean myself?
Well,
Coming from
if they have an
myself,
idea,
or-
I'm just,
Well, I didn't really hear anything concrete or clear. I just heard
Do you have like an example, you do something
that they have.
that they would, it
Oh.
doesn't require legislation, but they would want to.
well, I guess the conversation about the park in the western part of town that was something that seemed to be mentioned. Thinking that's something they wanted to have a discussion on.
I did ask them if they wanted to come to our meeting. I said if they could come to our meeting, we meet every Tuesday, or the second Tuesday
Could you
of the
speak into
month.
the mic?
I did mention that we meet on the second Tuesday of the month, and they were certainly welcome to attend.
There's nothing that stops them from coming to talk to us.
I think the whole purpose of PrAC is to create the ideas and the advice, whether it's in their meeting minutes or under suggestion for us to look at and take action on if there is action that's needed.
When I remember having been a former PrAC member in the early 2000s, is we gave suggestions there were 2 different council members, as I mentioned before. One was Mrs. Zirkin, the other one was Mr. Lawless. I don't remember us ever having anything concrete that we sent forward, except mostly we gave park reports, things that needed to be done in the parks. Greg Core was also with our committee at that time. I don't remember anything except for municipal park, I think. Some people on the committee decided they wanted to be involved in planning a municipal park. And that's all I recall.
So I guess my question would be that PrAC doesn't have the purpose of creating the ideas. I mean, is it just more of a administrative function at that point than a legislative? It's just creating a task of seeing if there's maintenance issues within the park. It seems like that'd be more of an administrative report than it would be a legislative. And I don't know if I really believe that that's the case. I see PrAC as a arm of council to be the eyes and ears to our community and our citizens if they have a suggestion that's something that we should look at a little more seriously.
They are an advisory committee.
I mean, do they not do that now?
That's what
I guess I don't disagree with you, but what is it we're trying to accomplish here? We're trying to get something in writing that says they need to do that, or?
No, I'm just looking for, I guess, clarification.
Because I thought that's what they did. I thought that's what their purpose was anyway.
But it sounds that if they have an idea or suggestion, they are the member has to come here to make that, and I don't think that that's necessarily the point. It should be the meeting minutes themselves and our council and us to make sure that we are their voice as well.
Well, you mean rather than coming to us and presenting to us in person, they should just make their recommendations, their ideas known, and
That's exactly what it is. The same thing with the Board of Zoning Appeals. We had some suggestions when I was sitting in the BZA of some things that may be more of an administrative change or something at that point. But it wasn't something where we had to come and say to the city council, you know, this is why we voted the way we did, or this is why we did what we did. This is, I see the same thing with Brad. If Brad has an idea, it's something that we should look at and bring to and talk about.
I don't have a problem with that. However you want to,
Yeah.
you know,
well, they-
procedurally, however you want to make that happen.
Yeah, it's just they need to come up with something. All I mostly heard at the meeting was a lot of discussion about how they were trying to get their bylaws. It was actually most of the meeting, other than the park reports. So, should be, any other questions or thoughts?
The only thing I would say is that I think that it would be appropriate for even us to have a talk with the administration or as council to continue to look at and explore what we can do to bring more parks.
Could you speak into your microphone, please?
I don't know how much closer I can actually talk into the
Well, it's not
microphone.
working.
Yeah. There you go.
Is there a way to actually have it inserted in this? But it seems to me that from that PrAC committee meeting that many of them wanted us to explore another park in the western part of town, whether it's somewhere else or what we need to do. I mean, looking at the P3 plan, it states that we need to continue to have greenway, belt access, and parks within the community in the neighborhoods as the city continues to develop. And what's one of the things I think that we need to get back to and do a little better job as a city, because if you really look at it, the western part for this city park is probably Davis Overlook. And that is pretty far away from the sanctuary.
They didn't do that one right either, as I recall.
Well, it's here or there. I think that the issue is that we need to continue to have some more parks that are going to create connectivity for those neighbors in the neighborhoods over there.
Well, I think that it should be said that we do, as I mentioned before, we have 12 parks, and I think, in all fairness to the Public Service Committee, they have a lot in their hands. I think I can speak for you when I say that, Judy. I don't know if they want to have to deal with another park. And there's a lot of vehicles that would have to deal with that as well.
Create a park not going to happen overnight.
No, but it's also good that you have your opinion, but I think the point is, one of the functions of PrAC is to give us their ideas and their concerns based on what they're hearing from the public, and they can bring it to us, and then when they do, your opinion is, I don't think we need one, then you can say so. But it gives everybody the opportunity to hear what they think, to give their opinion as to whether or not we need another park.
Now, I only heard one individual actually make mention about how that there was about possibly more parks on the west side. I didn't see several people making those
And if only one person comes forward, they're probably not going to sell the idea.
The person certainly could come before
I
PrAC.
believe that there was actually a couple members that made mention that I didn't watch the video and
Rather than getting into how many did, I mean, if they want to come forward.
we're getting to semantics at this point. But really what I think is that when I walked around knocking on doors, so one of the things I constantly heard in the western part of town is that there feels to be a disconnect with the parks and some of the service systems because they're just not nearby.
What do you consider the western part of town?
Think about Hall Prairie Road area.
Some new homes?
Yeah, some
People that haven't lived there very long.
But
They
some
bought
of
Well,
the,
homes,
they
they
still-
bought homes in locations where there's
They're
no
still
parks.
taxpayers.
but some of
They bought
those,
homes where there's no parks, and where there's no parks.
but some of those areas are also, I should make mention, you get into the Perrysburg Township, and then you get into Middleton Township, and a lot of times people also think that's the city of Perrysburg, and it's not.
I had a neighbor across the street complain because the ballpark lights were on at night. He bought his house, but backs up to the ball time. I mean, I built my house where I built it because the park is across the street. I wanted my kids to be able to go to the park.
Well,
That's why I didn't build my house where there are no parks.
For one of the what was it? Let me look at that here. I think it was part of the development plans is that they were supposed to set aside areas for a park,
Well,
when they're being developed, and that was part of
If
the.
they built their house with the expectation that there would be a park there, like, I appreciate that, but.
And that's usually, per the Ohio, but per the Perrysburg information, that is one of the things that was part of the requirements from the developers, is that they were to decide park or give money to the city to actually purchase land for a park. And that's something that I really think that we need to consider and look into.
We gotta follow through with that as part of the agreement.
Yeah. So I think that we honestly need to look at that. I'm going to go back to the Howell property. Again, we have a portion that's zoned scenic and a portion zoned R3. I think that there should be some consistency with the R3 portion, whether that's changed to park or scenic. I think it puts a peace of mind to some of those neighbors to know that that part is not going to be developed or sold to a developer to be developed at some point, that it's a way to make sure that it stays a natural
Unless it's
space.
rezoned again.
It's not, it'd still take council to do that.
Right.
Right now, they could potentially sell it if they wanted to, and it's under R3. And I think it would be appropriate for us to make that change, whether it be scenic or whether it be park, to protect that land. For the P3 plan as well, it says that we need to protect our natural spaces as much as possible, and that's one of the things I think that we need to be looking at doing with that area over there.
I guess I wasn't on council at the time, but I guess if we were going to be protecting our natural spaces, we would have done that with Riverside Park, which was a really nice park.
Okay.
So,
So council can rezone those without someone coming forward asking for them?
It's owned by the city. They're city properties.
That was my
well, there was
question indirectly.
so one you're indicating, as you mentioned before, one is scenics and one is R3.
Correct.
Mr. Would you say? Okay.
And those are two parcels that are owned by the city of Perrysburg.
I thought that the R3 was Dr. Rich. I heard that mentioned by Bridget Cabot.
That is not the case, and that's one of the concerns I had with the meeting minutes, because the two properties we were talking about were city-owned properties.
Also, you've been on planning zone, how do we move forward for?
We can make the,
something like that?
just a recommendation to make the change, and we can have
Is that
it.
something that should come out of the Parks and Rec, or should it come out of?
No.
I initially talked about it in planning and zoning,
Yeah.
and they wanted to send it over here first, and then we can always jump it back over to say we'd be in agreement in changing that zoning, release the R3 zoning to either park or scenic. I think park would be.
Just more, do you have any reason not to want to change it? Do you understand why you're saying change it from R3 to
Well,
park? Just so those people don't, someone doesn't go houses there.
As I mentioned before, I mean, I don't, if R3, if I remember correctly, maybe you can help me on this, John Mercer. I thought R3 was something that was residential.
It is, but it's owned by the city.
I guess I don't understand how
That's why it's called
residential
R.
is owned by the city. When I heard Dr. Rich was the owner of that meeting, I guess I don't understand why that is.
Let's just assume hypothetically that the city owns two parcels of land, and one is it scenic, John?
Yeah.
One's scenic and one's R3.
Right.
Would there be any harm in asking the planning and zoning committee to look into rezoning the R3 to be consistent with the S, whatever it is, I think it was S1 or something, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know, which is just scenic, which just prevents people from building houses on it. And I think if it's just scenic, you can't really develop it into a park, can you?
You can make it, I think, probably more of a natural path where people can
But
walk.
you
but
can't put a playground in it
Yeah.
and stuff like that, it's just it's very passive.
No.
I mean, I don't see a problem in doing it, because it's trying, in my opinion, it is trying to meet the expectations of the people that built the houses there, and assuring them that this is what you thought it was gonna be when you put your houses in. I mean, the wall diamonds weren't there when I built my house, but I looked at the plan, they said there's gonna be wall diamonds across the street, and I said, perfect, that's where I wanna live. And we did that, so.
I know that there's a school that I was told by several people in that area, and they had mentioned to me that they had thought one time about doing something about that, but they were fine with that. That's what I was told, and that's what
I
I
don't want to
would.
pressure make a decision now, that's just my thought process.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as, I don't have a problem with what he's proposing, but I'd be interested in if there's some downsides to it. I'd be interested in hearing what that is from anybody.
Yeah, I think I'd like to hear from Dr. Rich, who I
That's
remember
fine.
hearing at that meeting, and I think I remember being at a plan committee meeting where Dr. Rich was there as well. We talked about how he wanted to do building or something with that.
With the city-owned property.
That's what I recall. That was a few months back.
Oh, look into it. We had time.
It was just a plan commission, not planning and zoning.
Going to the, so he was going to purchase city-owned property, build something on it, or is that?
I heard discussion about him wanting to build where he has his property.
Yeah, but we're discussing city-owned property.
I didn't hear it mentioned that it was city-owned. I heard part of it,
Yeah,
right
so-
nearby was scenic, as I mentioned before.
The
Well,
two parcels.
do your due diligence, see what you want with. I mean, it's not a rush, I don't think, to resolve this.
No, I don't.
No, but I
we should
think
be
it's
in a
something that we should be looking at,
Right.
and doing to make the consistency, and I think that the neighbors over there would be appreciative of knowing exactly what's going
And
to
I don't
happen.
disagree with that, but we can't do anything with it between now and the end of the year, so, take your time to figure out, get all your questions answered.
I think getting questions answered would be a good,
So
would
we
be good.
can't change the zoning of privately owned
I understand that.
land just willy-nilly, I mean, it's,
I understand that, but, I like to have all my questions answered before I make a decision, so.
I'm in agreement with you on that.
So I would anticipate that everybody else would have the same types of concerns.
Mr. Hagan,
Excuse me. Jim Hagan, 10741 Avenue Road. And forgive me if I'm a little off track. I'm having a little trouble hearing you tonight. I don't know if it's the mics or what.
Everybody is.
But anyways, in regards to parks and stuff, I do have a couple questions. First and foremost, I believe the city is not doing enough to going out and adding land to get more parks for the city. My question would be is, do you know when was the last time the city actually purchased land to make a new park? We've had land donated. I know we have Davis Overlook, we have Woodlands, that was all donated. Where was the last park the city actually went out and bought land?
I think I remember that Bicentennial Park in 1976.
Which park?
Bicentennial Park.
And how long ago has that been?
That's just, I happen to recall that. 'cause it used to be in that
I'm just saying, you look at the number of years and the number of people we've increased. We are not increasing. We were 10 years behind where we should be. All this land that's out there on the southwest, there should have been land bought for parks. We have a program where where the developers have been coming in, and instead of giving us green space, they've been paying into a fund. My other question is, does that fund go towards land acquisition, or is that just strictly going into maintenance of the parks that we already have? Because in my opinion, that money should be set aside strictly for acquisitions and increasing the number of parks we have. It doesn't gain us anything if they don't put in green space for the people that are living in their subdivision, and we don't buy land for them. They have nothing there to go out and enjoy. And I know that that's a cheap way for all these developers, and it's been going on for quite a few years, and I know there's a lot of money that has been put aside, but my question is, where has it gone, and what does it amount to? Is there an actual amount that we know that is set aside? I don't know, and maybe these are questions that you need to go further up.
I will look into that.
Because, again, I've seen, again, I'm driving out that way all the time. There was another 70 acres out there that is up for sale, that it seems to me if the city was thinking about long-term, that we ought to be looking at some of these properties. Number one, it will cut down on the impact that it has on our schools. If we take part of that ground out from being developed and put into houses and give it into parks, we avoid the extra pressure on our schools by doing that, and it gives them green space out on that side where we need it. So that's just a thought I had tonight, so.
Mr. Hagan, where were
Thank
you
you.
3 years ago
Thank you.
when we spent $1.8 million in Riverside Park? We could have acquired a lot of land with that.
Right, right.
Where were you 2 or 3 years ago when the city spent $1.8 million to redesign Riverside Park? We could have used $1.8 million to do exactly what you're proposing right now. But we
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah, no, I understand, they redid, but I'm also saying that, we need to be looking at acquisitions.
We should have.
And again, and the area out there off Concord, I'm very much in favor of rezoning that so we have that in the parks, and eventually doing something out there low impact, just walking trails or whatever. I've been against the road that they're proposing cutting through there. It's already on the books for years, and I've made my opinions known, but haven't gotten anywhere. But it's, you know, it didn't make sense to me why you wanted to cut through, other than the fact it was easier for the developer, but there's other ways to get that access without having to go through the woods. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, if no one has anything else, I'd like to adjourn. Okay, awesome.